He is. All right, we're live, Zain. Hey, Zain, good to meet you, my man.
Yeah, good to meet you too, Sean.
I met you about 10 seconds ago, so this is like for reals. this is
He's not lying.
this is
He's not lying.
this is honestly what I've been doing for like 2.5 years since before COVID started, where it's like I'm trying to like tell people about RPH Ally. Like, hey, get on a call. Like that was before Zoom was even a thing, you know. And so great meeting you. Kevin's told me so much about you, and I just thought, gosh, I mean, this dude's gonna launch a channel for us. I gotta meet him, right? So, thanks for doing this on live, just to kind of be a good guinea pig to show other pharmacists as well. Like, hey, how do you get on and meet people that you're intrigued with, and just reach out, see if there's any collaborative opportunities. So appreciate it, my man.
No. Thank you for having me on and trusting me enough to do that.
Well, Kevin does a lot of good things about you, so this is good. We're gonna get along fine, I think. My first question is, I know the only thing I know about you is you have an oncology background and you're a whiz when it comes to health tech. That's it. Like how did tell me your story from like pharmacy school, or even you can go back as far as you want, but just tell me like how'd you get to where you are?
Yeah, June 4th. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, no, I pharmacy school. I went to Midwestern University in Illinois. After that, I did a year of residency, and then after a year of residency, I actually wanted to do a second year of residency, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to match. And I wanted to actually go into teaching, but just didn't work out. And then I was looking for jobs, and I was like, man, I worked really hard to get to this point. I want to find a job that I really enjoy. And I really liked oncology as a student and during my rotations and during my residency as well. So there was an oncology position open at like the big Freighter hospitals. This is the hospital that was at, and I applied. And for some reason they hired me, and I'm so thankful for that, because that led me down a pretty amazing journey. Oncology, I like oncology a lot. It's a completely different patient population. It's really hard to explain why it's so rewarding, but unless you like actually work in oncology, it can get a little depressing. That's what a lot of people say. Oh, isn't it so depressing and this and that? It can be, but there's more good than bad. You see a lot of greatness in people. It really puts life into perspective for you personally. But yeah, it's amazing. So then, and then like 9 years, 8, 9 years ago, I was sitting there doing a medication history on the inpatient floor, and I was like, man, this is taking forever. I have like 20 orders racking up on, in my queue. Like, this is ridiculous. This should be easier. So I was like trying to find a solution that would make it easier, and I couldn't find anything. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can come up with something on my own. So I was like workshopping some stuff with people, asked people what they would do or what they would like. And I found a co-founder that really believed in what I was trying to build. So basically, there was a lot of things that went on, but the main premise of it was eventually getting to a point where we have like a cloud-based EMR that patients control their own healthcare data, and it would have a telehealth component to it too, because working in oncology, we saw a lot of second opinions coming to us, and we never really knew what they had, what was going on, anything. Like it was just starting from scratch again. And it was really frustrating for the patients, rightfully so, and it's frustrating for us, right? It would delay care, all this stuff. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This shouldn't be the way it should be. But this was a long time ago. I mean, if I had the idea maybe 2 years ago, I'd probably be sitting in a mansion. But I was way too early. I was also young. I wasn't able to sell a story or anything like that. So it unfortunately didn't work out. But I learned a lot. I learned that, and this may sound really, really stupid, but I learned that healthcare and technology can live together rather than being adversarial. And I didn't think that was a possibility. I legit didn't know that clinicians can go into technology. But yeah, so then after that, I just kind of put my head down, just try to be the best oncology pharmacist I could be. Got married, life was changing. And then about a couple of years ago, I was like, hey, what do I want to do? Like, what is my purpose in this, right? I got into healthcare to help people. And being a clinician, it can get pretty depressing sometimes, because you have a lot of things put in your way, a lot of speed bumps, unnecessary things. You can't really help your patient because, oh, legal doesn't know, or, hey, what if we get this, or, insurance is not doing this and all that stuff. And I just didn't like that. And I was like, okay, let me see if I can get into tech. So I'm still looking for, I mean, transparently, I'm still looking for a job in the tech world. But what I started to do was started to like network with people in tech world, and also started consulting with some pre-seed startups, and I really love it. So that means something, right? Like I really like
Yeah.
doing that. And then I'm also right now, currently, what I do now is I'm a pain stewardship pharmacist half the time. So we evaluate pain management throughout the hospital system, optimizing it with the goal to hopefully reduce. What's the word I'm looking for? Abuse, to hopefully reduce
Yeah.
abuse throughout the community. And the other half of the time, I kind of do oncology, inpatient, outpatient, kind of whatever they need, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at right now. And yeah, man. And then in terms of like the health tech stuff, I just started I started a newsletter a couple months ago. I really enjoy doing that. So where I take deep dives into specific topics have that are big issues. Like the last one was about medication adherence. I get a lot of people asking me, "Hey, how do we solve medication adherence?" And I wrote about a story about a patient that I had, and she wasn't adherent because she didn't want to take the medications, or she just didn't care. She was not adherent because she wanted to do it without the medications.
Yeah.
And she got to a certain point, but she couldn't get past that hump. So that I told that story to kind of highlight the fact that it's a huge multifactorial issue. And then I like to also give solutions. So I kind of went into how technology can maybe solve these issues, like using chatbots and other things. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Let's go back a little bit to the startup. So that's fascinating. I did not know you actually were in the startup business a while back.
Yeah.
Really some hard lessons learned there, right?
Yeah, man. I am still not I mean, sales, with startup, you need to really market yourself,
Yeah.
sales, all that stuff, right? Even now, like I get really nervous now I'm not as nervous anymore, like putting myself out there, but back then I was like super
Yeah.
nervous. And when I told a couple of people told me like, hey, I don't think this is going to be a good idea. Like we need to physically see our patients. Telehealth is just never going to work. And I didn't push back on it. I was like, okay, yeah, and then I was stupid and kind of not arrogant, but I was like hard-headed, and I was hard-headed, like, no, I'm going to still push through it. I'm still going to try it, even though the market didn't exist at the time. So like, I learned a really valuable lesson there. Like, hey, even though if you have a great idea, if the market's not ready for it, then
Yeah.
there's not you can still keep building it, but you have to have certain expectations, right?
Yep.
And definitely learned that lesson. And then also, being able to create a story, weave it, and then tell people why this needs to exist, right? Like now I can articulate it much better, but back then I couldn't. I was like, hey, people don't have access, and
Yeah.
this and that. Like we know that, but why? So those are definitely some lessons I learned.
Now that you're joining the RPH Allied team, it's going to be, we'll have to give you a sneak peek to the Pharm BA, because that is where, like, they don't teach us that in pharmacy school,
No.
so we're really excited to help. Like if we could given that to Zain back then, and so we would have been able to do his market analysis and create his value proposition and all that stuff, you would have been a lot more successful, or at least you would have maybe known that you maybe had to pivot earlier before doing such a thing, right? But
Yeah.
everything works out as a way it should, hopefully, right? I know you're a very faithful guy, and I am too, and that's just a kind of, well, and I appreciate you being transparent about still looking for jobs, as I think everyone is always continuously looking for jobs, right? And it's getting tough out there, but I love how you bring the technology aspect to it, kind of bring that to the forefront, because just a little sneak peek into what we're going to be doing with Zain here is Zain's going to be leading kind of like our solutions technology kind of channel that's going to bring in a lot of his work and research that he's doing on his blog and kind of help expand on that. So I'm stoked for that, because that's something that I'm not really, I love that, but I don't have that knowledge and time really to put in that effort. So excited about that. Do you okay, number one, did you hear about the CDC guidelines coming out today for the opioids, or like round two? So you have
No,
no, it literally dropped. Like Mark the Pain guy, I love that guy. He just posted about it. I saw that right before we got on. So you have to check that out if in that
yeah,
pain stewardship.
definitely will be, yeah.
One thing I love how you talked about the inpatient oncology piece of it, because I remember like my wife went through breast cancer about 8 years ago, and I remember the pharmacist at UCS, or at the hospital. I mean, he would come in before every chemo and talk to us. And it was, of course, I'm nerding out because I'm a pharmacist. I don't know anything about oncology, right? But it was just fun to have that personal touch with, having that pharmacist come in and just kind of explain everything, get the right measurements and whatnot. So I think that's fascinating that you're still in that space. So hats off to you for that.
Yeah.
Good stuff there. So how about just a couple minutes here before we let everybody go? We don't want to go too long because my attention span's usually about 5 minutes and we're at 10. Tell us a little bit about like what you kind of intend for coming into RPH and helping out there, because we love all your content and you're getting actually a lot of traction early on for only like starting a couple months ago. So that's a lot of positivity right there, Zain.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, I'm very modest in that. But no, man, I mean, I think that if I knew as a student that I could go into informatics or data science and all these things, I would have 100% put my eggs in that basket. I think that that's one thing, is just bringing light to different jobs that exist out there, because not everyone is a clinician, not everyone is a data science, but like, we all have our own specific thing. And I wish I would have known beforehand. But then also just to have fun, man. I think the thing that I love about technology and like tech people in general is maybe what a lot of healthcare people don't like about them, is just like, you have to be a little crazy, you have to try things, and you kind of have to think really big. And I'm hoping to kind of garner that kind of community where we can share crazy ideas. The crazier the better, man. Like, I love crazy ideas. I love thinking outside the box. Let's break it all down, man. I think I am a person that, for better or for worse, instead of climbing over the wall or around the wall, sometimes you just have to run through the wall. So I'm all for it. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to, and just have fun with it. I think that one thing about our profession is sometimes we are almost too serious all the time. And I think that's just the nature of the people that we are. But just to have fun, man. Like, that's, again, that's why I like this space, because it's one of the few areas as an adult where you can really dream and dream big. And we've seen things in the past decade or decade plus, like those dreams manifesting into reality, and it's like really, so that's kind of what I'm hoping for, man. I just like to have fun, and just want to have a fun community that we can just like workshop things.
Absolutely. And we need pharmacists in that space, right? I mean, with the technology that's being built, we need the pharmacist mindset of going in there and having those solutions, and then being able to, even if you can't create it yourself, being able to help translate it to the people who can create it and tell them exactly what you need and how it's going to impact. I love it, man. Love it. Well, good stuff, Zain. You stay on. We're not done talking, and then we'll let everybody else here go. But we'll be seeing you soon.
All right. Sounds good.